For the next 24 hours, I'm going to be in this sort of like hyper tense state.
Oh my God. Why did I stop doing this?
Yeah. Should we talk about your new album or the next one after that, which is going to be called Veruca Chat, I understand?
Well, we were having a long chat about the horrors of Verucas, weren't we? Yeah.
We were.
Reminiscing about the foot bath before you go in the swimming pool.
What about Veruca Chat or Veruca Chill as an album title?
And neither of them are good, Chris.
Come on, man. What's wrong with you? Let's talk titles. Autofiction, ninth studio album. Autofiction. How come? How come it's called Autofiction? Tell us about it.
So Autofiction is like, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a literary genre. It's like a part memoir and part fiction, and I suppose everything. It struck me that all art is kind of autofiction to one degree or another. Nothing's absolute truth or absolute fantasy. There's fantasy within truth and truth within fantasy. So I'm sometimes I'm using characterization to explore truths, and sometimes it's much more from the diary. As far as the reviews so far are concerned, they're pretty darn good across the board. Enemy particularly love it. So here we go. It's raw punk. And you don't mind a review or two, do you? You don't shy away from them, do you, Brett? Well, you dive into the Twitter sphere and whatever it is, the sphere nowadays. We've got the record's coming out tomorrow, and I'm going to be, for the next 24 hours, I'm going to be in this sort of hyper tense state, because you've got to process all of the feedback in a way, right? Even the bad stuff. It's almost like the bad stuff as well. You've got to deal with it, because otherwise it's just going to be lurking there, and at 4 a.m. you'll just get up and say, okay, I'm going to read the 3 out of 10. I've just got to Google yourself. It's like grief. You've got to kind of go through the process. I think it's important to process it all, because to know how it lands with people is really important, because I think that making music, making any art, it's an act of communication. Yeah. And you're not making it in a bubble. You're not just making it for yourself, that old cliche. You are the audience has a real role in it, and their response is the answer to your act of communication,
You just have to be very, very thick-skinned, I think.
Yeah. It doesn't get any easier, does it?
Well, it's that weird thing that you can have like 10 fantastic reviews and then one terrible one, and you can't stop looking at the terrible one and trying to go, no, but that's not quite right. It's like the front row of a gig. There'll always be kind of like 99 people going absolutely crazy. Yeah. And there's always one guy with his arms folded. Probably his girlfriend brought him. Yeah. And you can't take your eyes off him. Part of the Suede show now is very much about kind of like the loop of response between the band and the audience, and kind of like harnessing that energy. I love we did a couple of weird little kind of gigs under a sort of assumed name last week. We did a couple of gigs under the name Crush Kid as a way of sort of starting again, as it were. And they were tiny little gigs, and we were right eyeball to eyeball with the front row of the crowd. And I love that, because as you get more successful, the venues you play get bigger, and you play these big festivals, and the crowd are miles away, and it's like, oh God, I just want to be in there with the crowd and creating that loop of response. Yeah, but when was the first time you two played on stage? Because you got this forthcoming tour, you got these gigs tonight, which we'll mention in a moment, and tomorrow, local record stores. What about the first time you ever looked askance at each other on a stage, like, how's this going? Are we doing all right here? Weirdly, we kind of played together in Brett's bedroom with a crowd. Yeah, we did. We started this thing called Bedroom Rock when we were about. We did when we must have been about 17 or 18, mustn't we? And basically, Bedroom Rock was us kind of playing these terrible songs really badly with like 2 or 3 friends kind of enduring them, and then kind of half-heartedly clapping at the end and talking through them, sort of thing. But the first proper gig we ever did wasn't that much different from that. It was a gig we did at the Hampstead White Horse, wasn't it? The Sausage Machine at the Hampstead White Horse. But we used to play, that was in the days when we used to have a drum machine, though. And the drum machine always used to break down, and that was terrifying, because there wasn't enough people in the audience. There was regularly more people on stage than in the audience in those days. We were terrible when we first started, but being terrible was quite good for us. Right. Because we weren't sort of like competent enough musicians to be able to like sound like the Stone Roses, which all the other bands were able to do. So the only band that we could end up sounding like was Suede. So we kind of like went away for a few years and rehearsed and wrote songs, and then suddenly we were able to sound like us, and that gave us something, that only we had, really.
and that was quite a good thing. So I think there's you should embrace ineptitude. You should embrace flaws and embrace kind of imperfections, because you can use them all.
Well, that's what life is. Life is only it's that mostly, and now and again a little bit of perfection thrown in.
Yeah,
but sometimes we get hooked on trying to preserve and curate that, as opposed to moving down the stream.
Absolutely, and that's the spirit that we entered into making autofiction with. It's like it's kind of like it's got mistakes in it, it's got count-ins in it, it's got all the kind of like the sort of, you know, the sort of debris of the studio sounds sort of left in, and the idea is that you almost like you're walking in on a band rehearsing, and but a human, you know, a bunch of real people. As I get older, I kind of dislike perfect, overproduced music much more, and I love imperfection in music. I love it when you can hear humanity in music. I love it when it sounds like it's made by human beings, and hopefully that's what autofiction sounds like.
Matt, for a while, obviously Brett did his own thing for solo albums. What were you doing?
I did loads of stuff. I worked as a journalist. I worked in an office. I had this weird thing that I thought that, you know, the music business was kind of venal and aggressive and shallow, and I thought I'd do something else. And then I found out that all jobs are venal and shallow. It's not just the music business, it's business.
It's not the music side of it,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
the business side of it. Yeah.
I remember the day that we split up, Alex Lee, who was playing with us, who played in loads of bands, he said to me, "This isn't normal, you know, what happened to you. Yeah. Your first band being really massive, travelling the world, you know, number ones and everything." But I didn't realise that until it was taken away.
It was your normal for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it became normal. It became almost kind of like workaday, which is a tragic thing, because it's, you know, it's a magical thing to do.
So when you were given the chance to re-engage with this wonderful career of yours, did you embrace it with open arms? Did you run towards Brett and said, "Take me, I'm yours"? Brett, what on earth were we thinking?
No, not at all. Not at all. I didn't think we'd come back. It was literally it was the moment we were on stage at the Royal Albert Hall, and just the sound of it and the feeling of it. Then it was like, oh my God, why did I stop doing this?
Yeah.
But the idea of it, no, I wasn't.
Well, you stopped doing it, so you realised how much you liked it.
I think that's one of the reasons that we've carried on making kind of, you know, we've had the desire to make new music, is almost a sort of, because we realised what we'd almost thrown away, and we kind of wanted to right those wrongs, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I get it entirely.
And that's a real motivation, I think, kind of like never being satisfied with what you've done in the past, and always thinking that the next record can be better, and always keep on heading towards the unachievable perfection, you know. It's always really exciting, this period of releasing a record, when it's all, you know, crackling, the energy's crackling, before you get jaded about it, basically.
And that's not happening anymore, is it? Because you are back in love.
We love it.
Good.